Hello, it is Raphael from XX Raphael Productions, and this is the second part in the series where I review Florence and the Machine's first three albums. In this video today, we are talking about their very first album, Lungs. In a previous video, a few days back, I reviewed Ceremonials, and that is going to be in the description below, so feel free to check that out if you want to see my personal thoughts on that other album. So now that I've got that out the way, we're going to go ahead and review Lungs. So one thing I found particularly interesting, so before I begin this review, I'm going to talk about something I noticed and one thing I found interesting that I want to note down. Basically, Ceremonials is their second album, so it actually comes directly after this album, like that I'm reviewing, in 2011. This album was released in 2009, Lungs, and as you listen to both albums, because I listened to Ceremonials first, so that was the first album I heard from this band, so now that I went straight to Lungs directly afterwards, I could hear the improvements that was made later on in Ceremonials. So, granted, both are definitely great albums, don't get me wrong about that, but Ceremonials was the first one I listened to, so I could already see the improvements before I listened to the first album they released. So, that was how it went down, and let's go ahead and say, though, that Florence and the Machines, her vocals as in this album, Florence Welch, her vocals in this album are terrific as always, and during some of the songs, some more than others, her English accent does show, which can be considered either a positive or negative, but for me, I am neutral towards it as I focus more on the songs as a whole and whether they are a good listening experience or not. Alright? And they definitely are great. Now let's go ahead and talk about what the album starts off, and it starts off with Strongly, with the track Dog Days Are Over, and it ends with the track You've Got the Love. So there are about 13 songs in this album, although if you own the deluxe version, there will be much more, which can be seen in the Spotify app, for example. So, surprisingly, as you search up Florence and the Machine on Spotify, you can see that Dog Days Are Over is their most popular song, which I am showing on the screen right now. Despite that, however, I honestly feel that there are plenty other songs in the album that are actually better than that song. Although credit is where credit is due. This song, I am not saying it's a bad song or anything, because it is still a very strong opening track nonetheless. A very good point to bring out about this particular album, and this is probably one of the strongest points that I'm going to make as to why this album is a good album. So, a very good point to bring up, and a major positive, is that it touches basically every spot on the emotional spectrum. What I mean by that is some parts of the album are best to listen to when you feel certain emotions, while some are also good to listen to when you feel other types of emotions. And that's something I really appreciate, because the listening experience is kind of amplified as it's appealing towards a wide variety, therefore it appeals towards more people. Okay, now, I know that can sound a bit confusing at first, but to really understand the point that I'm trying to make here, think of some songs, or rather some albums, where you prefer to listen to them when you're feeling excited, or let's say you want to get pumped up. But that same album that I just referred to will not be applicable when you're trying to feel other type of emotions. So let's say like you're not in the mood, for example. Now with this album, however, it is able to encompass a wide variety of spectrums of emotions into one, and it does it masterfully, making this album great for everybody in general. So another good way to put it is to think of this album as a collage of genres expertly put together, which resulted in something amazing. And now onto the vocals themselves. Just like in their subsequent albums, Florence's vocals are a fine balance between elegance and frenzy. That is a good thing, I mean that in a positive way. So, talking about that instrumentation now. So, as far as the instrumentation goes, however, there are definitely a lot of tracks that feel like they build up to a climax as the song progresses. Now, I know a lot of songs do the same thing, but think of it this way. So, as they build up, if you imagine Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, except basically Florence's songs are much shorter, as I was looking at the tracks and their lengths. The majority of the songs hover at around 3 to 4 minutes long, and there are also tracks that start off directly with a blast as well, so keep that in mind as you listen throughout the album, because as I was saying before, the album does great at being able to encompass a wide spectrum of emotions. So there's always going to be at least 1 or 2 tracks here and there that will fit whatever situation you're in, and that's pretty cool. Now, before I go ahead and mention some of the songs I recommend from this album, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and emphasize more about what I meant by my point earlier. So, there are a lot of the songs where, as I say, they're building up to a climax. The drums come in a lot later than directly at the beginning. Like, there are some songs that come with the drums directly at the beginning, such as the 7th track drumming song, so that is probably gonna fit in the spectrum of emotions where you're trying to feel hyped up or excited. So, like I said before, that is one positive point about this album. Now, we are going to go ahead and talk about the quality of the tracks themselves, as I promised earlier. None of these songs are actually terrible, like none of them are bad. The quality of this album, Lungs, is consistent throughout, just like in Ceremonials, like I said before. So, just like in Ceremonials, some songs do shine more than others, and I will mention them right now, but even if I do not mention a particular song that you wish I said, that doesn't mean that the song is bad, because like I said earlier, none of the songs in this album are terrible. So that's just a disclaimer I'm trying to get before I talk about this song. So let's go ahead and mention which songs I recommend to listen to. And they are Rabbit Heart, Howl, Cosmic Love, and Blinding. Rabbit's Heart in particular is an amazing and catchy track. That is actually the 2nd track in the album, I believe. Yeah, it's the 2nd track. It comes directly after Dog Days Are Over. It has great lyrics, and as always, Florence bone-chilling vocals are displayed clearly. The song next that I'm going to mention, Blinding, which is track number 12 in this album. It is quite repetitive if you notice as you listen to it, but the thing that makes it alluring is the harp and the breaths in the background. It makes it sound dark and even witch-like, which is what gives it an alluring and somewhat somber overall vibe to the song. So where am I going with this now? Although Dog Days Are Over is their most popular song, apparently, as what Spotify says, judging from the picture I displayed earlier, but if you want to see the picture again, I will display it on the screen right now, where you can clearly see the top 5 tracks that are supposed to be their most listened to, as what Spotify gives from their statistics. So, in my personal opinion, even though that song is good, a good opening track, a very strong opening track, that song is definitely not the best one in the album, but it's nonetheless still a good song. So, even though that I might hear this song, and since it's their most popular one, if you don't like this song, don't write off the entire album just because of that, because there are a lot of hidden gems here that might not get as much spotlight, and those are the songs I just listed earlier as well. So, taking into account the rest of the tracks, so this is gonna talk about the entire album now, the rest of the tracks, the melodies and the songwriting are just terrific, along with the smart production as well, which is good because, just like Ceremonials, I know I keep comparing this to Ceremonials a lot, but like I said before, these two albums are really similar, and I kind of see Ceremonials as taking what made Lungs great and emphasizing on its strengths more. So, along with the production of the album, we can give credit to everyone who worked on it because it sounds terrific, basically. So some backstory now. Lungs was released on July 3rd, 2009 by Islands Records. It is obviously, as I said before, the first album, followed by Ceremonials in 2011, October 28. This album is definitely worth a listen, and for my final rating, I am going to give this album a 9 out of 10. Solely because the next album, Ceremonials, took the idea of Lungs and improved it. Therefore, they kind of honed their style, that's one way you could put it, basically. So yes, definitely a recommended album. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you agree or disagree, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. My Skype name is on screen right now if you wish to contact me on anything. I will see you guys in my next video. So this is Raphael signing off.